Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am just Mike. You are watching and you are listening to episode number 61 of the Rock Out Wild Show, where it is not just a show, it is a way of life. Now, if you are new to this video and if you are new to this channel right here, right now, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below this very video. You can also like or dislike this episode as well. And you can also share this episode on all of your social media platforms, from your Facebook to your Instagram to your YouTube to your X to your Blue Sky to your Snapchat, what have you. Share it on every social media platform that you own and tell everyone what the Rock Out Wild Show is all about. From your family to your friends to your coworkers to your acquaintances, let everyone know about the Rock Out Wild Show. As you see from the title of this very video for episode number 61, I will be going over an article that was posted very recently. An article on the Stanley Cup Contender tiers for the rest of the season in NHL, because right now we're in the middle of the season, or at least in this case, we are around the second half of the season. We'll see what happens. Who will become the Stanley Cup champions in 2026? Will it be the Toronto Maple Leafs? Will it happen this year? Well, we will see. Crazier things have happened. I will get to all that in the main event of episode 61 of the Rock Out Wild Show. Also on the docket, we're going to take a look at on this day for March the 11th in film, television, music, wrestling, and sports. And to kick things off for episode 61, I will be reacting to an old movie review of mine, a movie called The Intruders from 2015, starring Donald Logue and Miranda Cosgrove. So what I'm going to do first is open up the webcam and say hi to everyone. How is it going? It is, as of this point, it is February the 26th as I am recording this episode, and this will be aired on March the 11th. So without further ado, let's react to my old movie review for The Intruders. So let's present, share screen, make sure the audio is on. Let's go to the review. Let's go full screen here. And usually when I react to these movie reviews, I guess the amount of points I gave this movie. So I am going to venture a guess that I gave The Intruders 68 out of 100. That is my guess. We'll see if I'm high or low or on the nose. Let's find out. So let's react. In 3, 2, 1, action. On the date this movie is released is also the day that I review this movie. Well, there's always a first for everything, isn't there? Yeah, that is not often the case that I review a movie that actually came out on the exact same day. Like, who would have? That's a rarity when it comes to my past movie reviews. Hey, what's up? And how's it going, all movie fans in the movieverse? Welcome to the Mike McRod Movie Review Show. Right now I'm going to review a movie called The Intruders, and this is a movie that just came out today, straight on DVD. And this movie is about a relationship between a father and daughter who moved to a new home after they suffered a loss of a close relative in their family, the daughter's mother. And basically what happens is that after they settle into the new home, things start happening and becomes a ghost story. And this is a mix of a horror and a thriller movie. Right. And going into this movie to me looked promising. The names that are in this movie, like Miranda Cosgrove,
Donald Logue and Tom Sizemore,
Tom Sizemore.
even Austin Butler, felt like this movie looked promising.
Austin Butler is in this movie? Oh my god. If I'm not mistaken, this might be the same guy that played Elvis from 11, and this is a movie from 11 years ago. Austin Butler. That is actually surprising. I did not anticipate that. Oh my god. Anyway, let's continue.
And is this movie any good? Well, it's sort of. Uh, this movie wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and it turns out it wasn't all that bad. It wasn't an outstanding movie, nor was it a bad movie. It's kind of a run-of-the-mill, mediocre type of movie, and when I mentioned before, when this is a movie that has horror, and thriller elements, it kind of has an identity crisis. It really doesn't know what it wants to be. Yes, it has horror elements in this movie, but nothing scary happens in this movie. Nothing creepy happens. You know, you've seen this kind of stuff before,
Right.
where you have these cliched spots that were supposed to be jump scares, and they just really fall flat on their face. So I was kind of disappointed that this movie probably should have been a lot creepier when they had the supposed creepy moments in the movie, but I was entertained somewhat throughout this entire movie. And I will say this, the acting was actually not that bad. It was solid to decent. I think Miranda Cosgrave as the leading role playing Rose, I thought done quite well. And it's really tricky when you have a actor who is known as a child actor in shows like Drake and Josh and iCarly. It's really hard to go from that to now being in the big time movies. Well, not necessarily big time movies like this, but transferring over from kids' TV shows to the Hollywood side of movies. And I think the transition hopefully works out with her. And I think this is a good sign that Miranda Cosgrave done a decent job in this movie. The only problem is I wish that Miranda Cosgrave was in a better movie than this, even though I think she was great. She was, pretty good in this movie. I felt like that the way the story and the script was very limited. She only had very little to work with, but I think for
Right.
the most part, she done a pretty good job as the leading role in this movie. And you had the supporting cast. Donald Logue played her father, and I like the back and forth between the two of them more so than I like the back and forth between her and Austin Butler in this movie. I felt like when Austin Butler first appeared, at least for the first few minutes, it really like he was really phoning it in. He was really annoying. I didn't like that, but at least he got better. But for the most part, I like the acting. It was solid to decent, and probably one of the most better aspects about this movie, despite the lackluster, scary elements that this movie tried but just didn't work. So, with that being said, this movie's not original. You're not going to expect anything that will make you jump out of your seat. But at least this movie was entertaining somewhat. It was easy to get through. There are a couple of other problems that I really like to get into, and one of them, the big reveal of what was really going on. I was waiting for the shoe to drop, and it dropped at the last 10 or 15 minutes or so before the movie was over. And I felt like that was the best that this movie could do. Come on. This was way too obvious, even though they were trying to build up potential villains. I seen this coming from a mile away. I expected that to happen, as well as the scene that happened before the end credits came up. To me, was completely unnecessary. So there were a lot of unnecessary moments that felt really cliched. But I will applaud this movie for something really small.
Okay.
I will get into this in a little bit of a detail. There was a moment where Rose saw lettering on the wall, And when she told her father, and when the father was about to see what was on the wall, I was expecting nothing to be there. But it
Right.
turns out there was something there. You could see the letters, but it was all scribbled out. So at least they didn't try to really cliche that moment. So I
Right.
applaud for
Right. Yeah.
that movie for doing something as small as that. But
Mhm.
but in the same time, this movie has a lot of predictable elements. You know, you could see things coming from a mile away. Wasn't really scary. You know, it is what it is. It's by the numbers. So with that being said, I'm going to say that The Intruders delivered 52 points out of 100. Out of 100, I mean. And if you see this movie on DVD, you can go out and buy it and waste your time with this movie.
Right.
Sure, so if you're a fan of horror movies that are PG-13 without any gories, I will recommend this movie to you. But other than that, I don't know. But if you already saw this movie, what did you think about it? Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below and give me your thoughts about The Intruders. And you can also hit that subscribe button as well to get McRocked.
Yeah. So that was my review and my reaction or lack of reaction. I was just really getting a refresher course on the movie because I completely forgotten about it. Also, this is a review that actually got a number of views. Even though I have every review on private. This review has 920 views. So it's one of those things where I review a movie on the day it comes out. I don't think a lot of people are really talking about it then, which is why it got a little bit of growth there. As far as this movie goes, would I watch this again? Maybe. If I, well, like I said, if I see it on TV or something, I would probably give it a watch again. But other than that, I wouldn't go crazy in anticipation to watch this again. So, oh, and again, Austin Butler. I did not anticipate that I saw a movie with Austin Butler in it 11 years ago, long before he was Elvis. I did not anticipate that. That actually caught me by surprise in a really good way, actually. So that was my take on The Intruders. And let's get into the stuff that you normally see on the Rock Out Wild show. So what I'm going to do is present, share screen, and let's take a look at an installment I like to call On This Day from March the 11th. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is film and television from March the 11th. So what happened in years past? Well, back in 1927, Samuel Rothafel opens the 5,920 seat Roxy Theater in New York City. With silent film The Love of Sonia starring Gloria Swanson, largest movie theater at the time of construction. In 1948, WBAL TV Channel 11 in Baltimore, Maryland begins broadcasting. In 1957, Charles Van Doren finally loses on the U.S. TV game show 21 after winning $129,000, later revealed to be fixed. And of course it's fixed, it's television. In 1959, Lorraine Hansberry stage drama A Raisin in the Sun. The first Broadway play by a black woman starring Ruby Dee and Sidney Poitier opens at the Ethel Barrymore Theater in New York City, later transfers to the Belsesco Theater, and it runs for 530 performances. In 1964, 21st Golden Globes, The Cardinals, Sidney Poitier and Leslie Caron win. In 1964 also, Gene Roddenberry brings together a 16-page pitch for the original Star Trek series. And then he created a monster. In 1968, episode of the Monkees TV show features musician Frank Zappa, who did it his way, posing as Mike Nesmith and vice versa, debating qualities of each other's music. In 1970, 12th Grammy Awards, Aquarius, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Peggy Lee win. In 1974, Rhino Records store in Claremont, California offers customers 5 cents to take home Partridge Family actor Danny Bodasu's debut solo album. Wow, 5 cents. That is incredibly cheap, even in today's standards. That is free in today's standards. In 1983, 9th People's Choice Awards, Burt Reynolds, Jane Fonda, and Katharine Hepburn win Motion Picture, and Tom Selleck, Linda Evans, and Loretta Swit win Television. In 1990, 16th People's Choice Awards, Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep win Dramatic Motion Picture, and Bill Cosby and Felicia Rashid win TV. When did that ever age poorly? In 1991, 17th People's Choice Awards, Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts win Dramatic Motion Picture, and Bill Cosby and Kirstie Alley win Television. Again, that aged like sour milk. In 1991, Janet Jackson signs a $40 million 30 album. That's a lot. 1991, Janet Jackson signs $40 million 3-album deal with Virgin Records. In 2008, Placido Domingo named the King of Singers in BBC Music magazine based on voting by 16 renowned opera critics for the April 2008 issue. In 2018, superhero movie The Black Panther becomes the 5th Marvel movie to earn $1 billion worldwide. In 2020, former Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is sentenced to 23 years in prison for a criminal sex act and RIPE in New York. We all know how that is panning out as we speak. And those are all the things that happened on this day in the world of film and television for March the 11th. Now let's take a look at what happened on this day for March the 11th. The big headlines, I should say, in the world of music. Looks like we have here a picture of the guy that would do anything for love, but he won't do that. Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell begins long UK chart reign. On this day in music, March the 11th, 1978, Meatloaf's debut album, Bad Out of Hell, began its record-breaking 460-week run on the UK chart. Despite spending almost 9 years on the bestsellers list, it never reached the top spot. Peaking at number 9 in America, the album, which began Meatloaf's long association with known as songwriter and producer Jim Steinman, plateaued at number 13 during an 83-week chart reign. 83 weeks. Oh my God. To date, it has sold in excess of 43 million copies worldwide. It has been certified 14 times platinum by the RIAA. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. No, I won't do that. In 2016, 71-year-old prog rock pioneer Keith Emerson passed away. He took his own life. The victorious classic-trained keyboardist, songwriter, and producer initially rose to fame, leading the Nice, and in 1970 co-founded Emerson, Lake and Palmer, a supergroup with Greg Lake and Carl Palmer. Together they make 8 albums between 1970 and 1978 and reached number 2 in the UK charts with their vision of Aaron Copland's Fanfare for the Common Man. In 2015, a Los Angeles jury ruled in favor of Marvin Gaye's family, who claims that Robin Thicke's 2013 US chart topper, Blurred Lines, copied elements from the soul icon's 1977 hit, Got to Give It Up. Thicke, along with co-writers Pharrell Williams and T.I., strenuously denied copying the Motown song, but jurors decided that blurred lines infringed Gaye's copyright and awarded his family $7.3 million in damages. In 1967, Lennon and McCartney's publisher Dick James announced that 446 different versions of the Beatles' Yesterday has been recorded since it was first released in 1965. In 1986, the Guinness Book of World Records estimated that 1,600 cover versions existed. In 1965, Welsh singer Tom Jones reached number 1 on the UK singles chart with "It's Not Unusual to Be Loved by Anyone," the first of 16 British chart toppers. The song, co-written by Jones' manager Gordon Mills, was originally embarked for Sandy Shaw, but when she heard Jones' demo version, she recommended he cut it instead. In 1993, Oasis recorded their first demo at the Real People Studio in Liverpool, which led them to sign with Creation Records. The demo was officially released in 2014 as a limited edition cassette called Live Demonstration, coinciding with the 20th anniversary of their debut album, Definitely Maybe. But did they look back in anger of that? Who knows? Let's see what have. Well, we have some birthdays here for March the 11th. In music, we got Mark Steen from Vanilla Fudge, who was born in 1947. Born in 1950 was Bobby McFerrin. For Big Country, Bruce Watson was born in 1961. Born on March the 11th, 1964. God rest his soul, Vinnie Paul from Pantera. Born in 1968 on March 11th is Lisa Loeb. In 1979, Joel and Benji Madden were born on March the 11th from Good Charlotte. And from 1981, Latoya Nicole Luckett was born on March the 11th, one of the singers for Destiny's Child. Those are all the big headlines in music for March the 11th. Now let's take a look at what happened on this day in wrestling for March the 11th. Here we have a picture of Scott Hall, Stone Cold Steve Austin on the right. Looks like Scott Hall is going to give Stone Cold a taste of his own medicine, a stunner. And Hogan and Nash on the left, looking right at Scott Hall, giving Stone Cold a stunner. And you got referee Earl Hebner there as well. I don't know who that is laid out. That might be The Rock. That could be The Rock. I'm not sure. I'm thinking it might be The Rock because it looks like his trunks. Anyway, let's continue on. In 1993, at a house show in London, England, Sting defeated Big Van Vader to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. In 1993, also, former WWF superstar Dino Bravo was brutally murdered in his Quebec home at the age of 44. Bravo was shot 17 times, allegedly due to issues with local organized crime families. The murder was never officially solved. I know OTR Central will have a field day if I told them that. In 1996, Steve Austin debuted his new Stone Cold gimmick at the WWF Raw tapings from San Antonio, Texas, in a double count-out draw with Savio Vega. A rematch between the two would take place at WrestleMania 12 a few weeks later. Mark Henry also made his first WWF appearance as he press-slammed Jerry the King Lawler. In 1996, the Steiner brothers returned to WCW for the first time since January 1993. They lost their return match to the Road Warriors. In 2002, on an episode of Raw for Detroit, Michigan, the NWO, Hollywood Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash defeated Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and The Rock in a handicap match. This would be the only time Hogan and Austin were in the same match in a WWE ring. In 2003, the main event of SmackDown saw Kurt Angle defeat Brock Lesnar to retain the WWE Championship. These two were set to meet in the main event of WrestleMania XIX 19, I do believe, a few weeks later. But a severe neck injury to Angle meant that the match was scheduled to allow Angle to drop the title to Lesnar before getting surgery. However, after the match was announced, Angle informed management that he had elected for a different type of surgery that would take place after WrestleMania, allowing him to drop the belt to Lesnar on the pay-per-view as planned. So it was planned all along. As a result, WWE changed the match into more of an angle that saw Kurt's brother, Eric, stand in for him as an imposter, allowing Kurt to roll up Lesnar, retain the title, and roll into WrestleMania as planned. In 2006, an ROH Arena Warfare in Philadelphia, Bryan Danielson retains the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title against Alex Shelley. Samoa Joe was victorious in the main event in a triple threat match against Christopher Daniels and Colt Cabana. Hi, CM Punk, how are you doing? In 2007, at TNA Destination X in Orlando, Florida, Christian Cage retained the NWA World Heavyweight title against Samoa Joe, and Kurt Angle defeated Scott Steiner. Also, the Latin America Exchange, Homicide and Hernandez defeated Team 3D in a ghetto brawl. Sting was victorious over Abyss in a last rites match, and Rhino defeated AJ Styles in an Elevation X match. There it is right there. In 2015, AJ Styles pinned John Hennigan for the FEW Heavyweight title in the main event of FEW XIX, Hennigan versus Styles from New York. And if you don't know, John Hennigan is also John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, what have you. In 2018, at WWE Fastlane in Columbus, Ohio, AJ Styles retains the WWE Championship in the six-pack challenge main event against Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. As a result of Cena losing effort in the match and his storyline obsession of featuring on the WrestleMania 34 card, Cena will go on to challenge The Undertaker to a match in New Orleans the following month. Also, Randy Orton defeated Bobby Roode for the United States Championship, and Charlotte Flair retained the SmackDown Women's title against Ruby Riott. Also in 2018, Will Ospreay and Jody Fleech defeated Adam Brooks and Sean Custom in the tag team main event at the Rev Pro Live event in Southampton. Also, Curtis Chapman retains the Rev Pro British Cruiserweight title against Wild Boar. In 2019, Bobby Lashley defeated Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship on WWE Raw from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I guess you can call him Pin Balor instead. In the main event, Drew McIntyre defeated Dean Ambrose as part of the build-up to his WrestleMania showdown with Roman Reigns. In 2020, on NXT from Orlando, the Bruiserweights, Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne, well, the Broserweights, I should say, retained the NXT Tag Team titles against Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly of the Undisputed Era in the main event. And we have some birthdays here for wrestling for March the 11th. We have Black Terrorist, was born in 1987. Roos Haas was born in 1974. Pitbull, number 1, was born on this day in 1967. And Robbie Brookside was born on March the 11th, 1966. Pick up sticks. Those are all the events that happened in professional wrestling from March the 11th. And for the final thing for on this day, for March the 11th, we're going to take a look at sports. And I'm sure there's a lot here, so let's get right to it. In 1863, 25th Grand National, George Stevens wins his second GN aboard 4-1 emblem-winning Mare's full sister. Emblematic wins the following year. In 1876, English FA Cup final, Kennington Oval, London. Wanderers and Old Edmonton's draw 1-1. Wanderers win replay 3-0 for a third title. In 1892, first public basketball game, Springfield, Massachusetts. In 1901, Cincinnati Enquirer reports Baltimore manager Joe McGraw signed Cherokee Indian Tucahoma, who was really black, second baseman Charlie Grant. In 1904, Stanley Cup, Ottawa Silver Stevens beat Brandon Wheat City 2-0 at the Aberdeen Pavilion, Ottawa for a 2-game sweep and back-to-back titles. In 1905, Stanley Cup, Days Arena, Ottawa, Ontario. Ottawa Senators beat Red Portague Thistles 5-4 for a 2-1 Challenge Series victory. In 1910, English cricketer Jack Hobbs scores 187 versus South Africa, his first international test 100, only to then get out his wicket. I should say. In 1912, first Stanley Cup Challenge game to be played in 3 20-minute periods. Formerly 30-minute halves, Quebec beats Moncton 9-3 on way to series sweep. In 1917, first NHL championship game ever played. Toronto Mariners beat Montreal Canadiens 7-3 in first of 2-game set, second game on March 13th. In 1924, NHL championship, Montreal Canadiens sweep Ottawa Senators in 2 games. In 1927, first boxing Golden Gloves tournament. In 1941, Bronco Nagurski regains the World Wrestling title from Ray Steele in Minnesota after losing to him a year earlier. In 1956, LPGA Title Holders Championship Women's Golf, Augusta. Louise Suggs wins her third title holders title by 1 stroke from Patty Berg. In 1961, then NHL record 40 penalties, Blackhawks and Maple Leafs 20 each. In 1967, 14th ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, North Carolina beats Duke 82-73. In 1972, 19th ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, North Carolina beats Maryland 73-64. In 1979, Randy Holt receives 67-minute and penalties in his 60-minute NHL hockey game. In 1981, Johnny Mize and Ruby Foster are elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. In 1982, Detroit Pistons play the Chicago Bulls with final score of Detroit 152 to Chicago 144, and Detroit having 20 blocked shots. In 1983, Ice Dance Championship at Helsinki, Finland, won by Jane Torville and Christopher Dean, Great Britain. Ice Dance Championship. Who would have thought? In 1983, Men's Figure Skating Championship in Helsinki, won by Scott Hamilton. In 1984, 31st ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, Maryland beats Duke 74-62. In 1986, New York Islanders Mike Bossy, first NHLer to score 50 goals in 9 straight seasons. Also in 1986, NFL adopts instant replay rule. In 1990, 11th Big East Men's Basketball Tournament, Connecticut beats Syracuse 78-75. Also in 1990, 31st SEC Men's Basketball Tournament, Alabama beats Ole Miss 70-51. Also in 1990, 37th ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, number 14, Georgia Tech beats Virginia 70-61. In 1991, John Smith, U.S. amateur wrestler, wins James E. Sullivan Award. And also in 1991, Monica Seles ends Steffi Graf's streak of 186 weeks, ranked as number 1. 1983, 1993, I mean. Men's Figure Skating Championship in Prague, won by Kurt Browning. 1997, Where I Left My Heart in San Francisco, giant JT Snow suffers a fractured eye socket when hit by a pitch. In 2000, When We Will Make It Up to You. 21st Big East Men's Basketball Tournament, St. John's beats Connecticut 80-70. In 2001, 42nd SEC Men's Basketball Tournament, Kentucky beats Ole Miss 77-55. Also in 2001, 48th ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, number 3, Duke beats number 6, North Carolina 79-53. In 2006, 27th Big East Men's Basketball Tournament, Syracuse beats Pittsburgh 65-61. In 2007, 48th SEC Men's Basketball Tournament, Florida beats Arkansas 77-56. It's effing Arkansas. If you know, you know. Also in 2007, 54th ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, number 8, North Carolina beats NC State 89-80. In 2012, 53rd SEC Men's Basketball Tournament, Vanderbilt beats Kentucky 71-64. Also in 2012, the 59th ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, number 17. That's a certain number, someone's favorite number. Florida State beats number 4, North Carolina 85-82. In 2013, La Russa's World Sports Awards, Municipal Theater, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Sportsman, Usain Bolt. Sportswoman, Missy Franklin. Team FC Bayern Munich. In 2017, England retains the Six Nations Rugby Championship with 61-21 win over the Scotland at Twickenham. England's 11th consecutive Six Nations win and equals New Zealand's record of 18 consecutive international wins. In 2020, NBA suspends 2019 to 2020 season until further notice after Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert tests positive for COVID-19. Yeah, that was a big thing back then. Still sort of is, too. And those are all the things that happened on this day in the world of sports. And I do believe it is about that time for the main event of episode number 61 of the Rock On Wild Show. And as you see from the title of this very episode, I'm going to go over an article, seeing as that we're right in the middle or a little bit more than halfway into the 2025-2026 NHL series here. I'm going to go back to sports again. Back in episodes 48 and 49, I've done the sports topic, and this is for episode 61. So it's been a while since I've done a main event for a sport topic. So let's get right to it. So let's present, share screen, and let's take a look at this article that I've actually looked up not too long ago, actually very, very recently, February the 25th, 2026, this came out. So I like to get the articles when they're fresh and they're new. So let's look over this right here. So it says obviously the big headline title here, Stanley Cup Contenders Tiers. Lightning looks like favorites. Panthers in some trouble as NHL season resumes. So this article comes to us from CBSSports.com, and this is written by Austin Nivison. And this is about the Stanley Cup Contenders Tiers and what to expect, what not to expect, which teams can make a real push for the Stanley Cup in 2026. So let's scroll down and see. We have a picture of the Stanley Cup from last year. It says here, following a whirlwind of world-class hockey at the Olympics, which culminated with the United States sweeping the men's and women's tournaments, which Canada should have won, darn it, it's time for the NHL to resume play. So as of this point, I'm recording this on the 26th of February. So they obviously just resumed, but it's been a couple of weeks now. So let's look at here. As the home stretch of the season begins, it's time to refocus on the race towards the Stanley Cup. So, which teams are real contenders to lift hockey's greatest prize in June? So that's when the playoffs will begin. So it says here, if you need a refresher, or if you decided to jump on the NHL bandwagon after the Olympics, this exercise should serve as a quick refresher for where every team stands as the regular season resumes on Wednesday night. Obviously, this is from the past year. For much of the season, two teams have been head and shoulders above everyone else. So we have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. And it says here they are the best teams in the NHL right now. And that's something the eye test and the underlying numbers agree with. So, by the looks of it, the Stanley Cup champions could either be the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Colorado Avalanche. I don't like either one of those choices, but let's see how the rest of the season goes before we get into the playoffs here. So, beyond those two, there are a handful of Stanley Cup contenders who look poised for deep playoff runs. It's pretty wide open race with a few teams like the Ottawa Senators, who are strong in many areas but possess one or two flaws. Then there are the defining Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, which could win it again. Actually, I could see them winning again. Now it says here they need to kick it into high gear just to make the playoffs. But if they do, we all know that they are capable of grinding down their opponents, and I do believe that to be true as well. So let's take a look at where each team stands in the race for the Stanley Cup as the NHL is resuming play as we speak. So obviously we were looking at the favorites here, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. So it says here, the Lightning and Avalanche have been the two best teams in the NHL by a wide margin this season. Despite dealing with a long list of injuries, Tampa Bay has continued to roll through its schedule. Nikita Kucherov is on pace with 146 points. Janice Moser and Darren Radish have been relevations on the blue line. And goaltender Andrea Vasilevsky looks like a brick wall. Probably be meaning that that's a really good goalie. Colorado got off to a roaring start, but it has cooled off in 2026. The Avs are 7-2 over the last 16 games, but they still have all the ingredients to win the Stanley Cup. Nathan MacKinnon is playing at a Hart Trophy level. Kale Maker is the best defenseman on the planet, and Brock Nelson doesn't have the same ring, doesn't it? It says here he has given the team a strong second line center. We have the contenders here, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Dallas Stars, shout out to you, Liz, Minnesota Wild, and Vegas Golden Knights. I know she is probably thinking, Mike, God darn it, you annoy me. Anyway, the Hurricanes the Hurricanes once again look like a threat to make a deep run in the Eastern Conference. But do they have enough offense firepower at the top of the lineup to finish the job? Well, that seems to be the annual question for Carolina. Dallas was one of the hottest teams in the league heading into the Olympic break, winning 6 straight games. So that's impressive. So look out for the Dallas Stars here. The Stars have been eliminated in the Western Conference Final 3 years in a row, and it looks like they are destined to get at least that far again in 2026. We'll see how the Dallas Stars do in the playoffs this year. Hopefully they actually do advance. Since acquiring Olympic hero Quinn Hughes, the Wild are 16-5-5 and they look capable of giving other contenders in the West all they can handle. One of the contenders is the Golden Knights, which have had trouble getting reliable goaltending. If Vegas can get the crease sorted out, it will be very dangerous. And then we have some dark horses here. We got the Utah Mammoth, which I have no idea if that was an NHL team. That's very new to me. The Ottawa Senators, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Great movie, by the way. The Pittsburgh Penguins, Detroit Red Wings, and Buffalo Sabres. On a side note, Detroit Red Wings in the 90s. I don't need to go over that again. I went over that before, but I love the Red Wings way back when. So let's see what we have here. The Mammoth are a promising young squad that appears to be turning a corner, especially with center Logan Cooley returning to the lineup. The Ducks are in a similar boat with a lengthy rebuild finally yielding results, but they might be a little too green to be a real Stanley Cup threat. But we'll actually see about the Anaheim Ducks as well. The Senators have been a tremendous 5-on-5 team all season, but they haven't gotten a save. Linus Ullmark has the potential to play at a high level between the pipes, and Ottawa needs that kind of effort from him down the stretch. In case of the Red Wings, Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider have emerged as superstars. So I guess they're the new Fedorov and Shanahan, I guess you could say. Do they have enough help around them? How aggressive will GM Stevie Yzerman be at the trade deadline? Detroit needs an upgrade at the center. I think that the Red Wings are in good hands with Stevie Yzerman as the general manager. I am just saying. Two Metro Division rivals. The Penguins and Capitals have been getting the most out of their respective rosters. Sidney Crosby, who will miss several weeks after getting injured in the Olympics, which sucks. I think that's what killed the Canadian team in the Olympics. It looks like he wants another run at the Cup with Pittsburgh, and Washington has gotten elite goaltending from Logan Thompson. I mean, that seems to be the case here. I mean, come on, Sidney Crosby. Get back on the ice. We need you. Damn it, we need you. And we have here the Sabres. They look good in several different areas, especially with the way their blue line has come together. But the middling 5-on-5 numbers give some pause. Still, Buffalo should end its long playoff drought, and that's real progress. I mean, yeah, I think they should, absolutely. I always liked the Buffalo Sabres, even way back when. We have two teams that you cannot count out. We have the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. I'd love to see the Oilers get back on the hunt for the Cup this year, absolutely. These two have met in the Stanley Cup final in back-to-back seasons, and even though they haven't been perfect, they're still capable of going on a run. The Oilers have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, two superstars capable of willing the team to one playoff series win after another. Plus, it helps that Edmonton plays in a very weak division. The Panthers, however, have dealt with devastating injuries all season, which sucks. And they have gotten a lot of work to do to research this postseason. To reach this postseason. But Captain Alexander Barkov has started skating again. If Florida can get Barkov back in the lineup, that would be a huge boost. But it's also needed Sergei Bobrovsky to look more like himself. Then we have some long shots here. We have Montreal Canadiens, Washington Capitals, Los Angeles Kings, Columbus Blue Jackets, New Jersey Devils, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto Maple Leafs is a long shot. I think they have been a long shot since 1967. That is all I'm going to say about that. And it says here, it's impossible to totally rule out any of these teams out of contention. But it's going to take a small miracle for them to lift the Stanley Cup. I think it's going to take the Maple Leafs more than a miracle, I think. At the least of a few teams will reach the playoffs, but their rosters are clearly flawed. The Canadiens and Blue Jackets lack quality, center depth, it says here. They can make it work in the regular season, especially Columbus, which is getting the great goaltending from Jed Greaves. However, once the playoffs roll around, the lack of talent down the middle will be a fatal flaw, it says here. Washington has gotten elite goaltending from Logan Thompson all season, but the team is below .500 in 2026. He says here he's not sure that the Capitals have enough star power to make a playoff push and can go on a cup run if that push is successful. It says here right before the Olympic break, the Kings took a big swing and added star forward Artemi Panarin in a trade with the Rangers. That would have put them in the dark horse category until Kevin Faldo suffered a season-ending injury in Milan. Now Los Angeles is once again in need of more offense. And it says here, can Jack Hughes use his heroic Olympic performance as a springboard for the home stretch of the NHL season? If he can, the Devils could make a real playoff push. The problem is that they have a lot to make up for. And it says here, oh, here we go, the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have some ingredients to be a threat to mainly star power up front with Austin Matthews and William Nylander. However, the blue line is older and has suffered knee injuries throughout the season, and forward depth remains a real concern. I think what also remains a real concern is, can the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup? We shall see this year. You never know. Sometimes you never know with these things. Then we have three teams that are, quote unquote, not buying it. You know, the teams that will not win the cup, which is pretty much a given here. We have the New York Islanders, the Boston Bruins, which sucks because I always loved the Boston Bruins, and the Seattle Kraken. Release the Kraken or release the Cheesehead, whichever. Take your pick. Anyway, these teams occupy playoff spots as we resume NHL play, but there are serious red flags under the hood in each case, and there's a chance none of them actually reach the postseason. Per natural stat trick, none of these teams have a 5-on-5 expected goals share above 46.5%. The Kraken generate expected goals at the lowest rate in the league. The Islanders surrender expected goals at the highest rate in the league, and the Bruins aren't far behind them. We have teams that are listed as try again next year. We have the San Jose Sharks, Philadelphia Flyers, and the Chicago Blackhawks. It says here, as fun as this tier of teams has been at times this season, none of them will be winning the cup. In fact, there's a good chance none of them make the playoffs. And it says, having said that, each team has shown signs of real progress that makes it think good things are on the way sooner rather than later. That's expectedly true for the Sharks, who have legitimate franchise superstar in Macklin Celebrini, surrounded by more exciting young pieces. San Jose just needs to figure out how to improve its blue line in the offseason. Philadelphia has been a scrappy team, and that will hurt its chances at getting a premium draft pick in June. Still, there is a lot to like about the squad, and it will have some salary cap flexibility. The Blackhawks are still a bit of a project, but Connor Bedard is still only getting better, and Spencer Knight is the long-term answering goal. How aggressive will GM Kyle Davidson be in adding impact players over the summer? Well, we shall see. Then we have teams that are listed as try again in a few years. We have the Nashville Predators, the St. Louis Blues, the New York Rangers, Winnipeg Jets, Calgary Flames, and the Vancouver Canucks. These 5 teams are in pretty bleak situations at the moment, and it may be a while before they truly ascend back to contender status. The Predators, Blues, and Rangers still have some tearing down to do before they start rebuilding process in earnest. All 3 teams have veteran players who could be appealing to playoff teams at the trade deadline. The Jets are an interesting case because reports indicate that they want to try to improve their top 6 winners at the deadline. That would be like fixing a leaky faucet on the Titanic as it plunges into the ocean. That's right, a leaky faucet. Winnipeg needs to rip the Band-Aid off and start selling. This core is older, and the Jets need an injection of youth. Leaky faucet. If you know, you know. In the case of the Flames and Canucks, their rosters are pretty barren as it is. They'll sell at the deadline too, but some of the biggest pieces have already been shipped out. Now it's about using draft capital to acquire as much as young talent as possible. So that was the article on the Stanley Cup contenders tiers for 2026 for the rest of the NHL. And this has been episode number 61 of the Rock Out Wild Show. I'm going to leave you all with a quote from Perspective of the Day, and it goes something like this. Support is not a weakness. It is a connection. Today is a reminder that asking for help does not make you less capable. It makes you human. You deserve support just as much as anyone else. Sharing the weight of your experiences does not burden the right people. It strengthens bonds. You are allowed to lean on others when you need to. You do not have to navigate everything by yourself. Let today be about allowing support where it feels safe. I am your host, Just Mike, and this has been episode number 61 of the Rock Out Wild Show. And on a final note, to all of you watching this episode all around the world, get plenty of rest and always do your best.